Lots of stories to discuss coming up. Could free speech be under threat? This comes as the Education Secretary shelves free speech law put in place to tackle cancel culture and protect academics from expressing their views on campus. Now, we're starting with the serious stuff, but there are fish and chips to come, so don't go too far. Now, Henry has been a very, very, very good boy and read all his stories. So, Henry, tell us what's going on here.
Oh, it's like the reverse of my university experience. I'm the one who's done the read. Essentially,
well, you're up against Michael. Come on, it's not a lot of competition here.
Essentially, the last government had passed a law that was going to empower the Office for Students to protect freedom of speech on campus. It was going to have a new czar who was going to have a scheme by which academics could complain if their institution had punished them professionally for freedom of speech issues, and there was going to be a scheme of fines and other sanctions. And for some reason, the government decided, the previous government, when they passed this act, they put in a regulation saying it wouldn't come into force until this August. Obviously, by which point they've lost power. So Bridget Phillipson, the new Education Secretary, has simply suspended that regulation, and so now the bill will probably never come into force. And this comes hot on the heels of her decision to sack the chairman of the Office for Students. Now, you remember, over the past few years, the sheer volume of anger when Conservatives tried to do anything like this. Bridget Phillipson's just come in and been like, nah, don't want Lord Wharton, out he goes. So it's an object lesson in how to wield power, basically, from Labour in the Education Department.
Because they've got no one to argue against them, have they, really? They can pretty much do what they want. Does this sound good to you, Michael? A good idea?
Well, now he's done the reading, I'll piggyback off that and give my uninformed opinions. I think in terms of this, I actually do agree that there is a bit of a problem with cancel culture, and I would sort of support
on a serious note, we have seen
having regulations to sort of push back against it. I suppose the sympathetic reading of this is that I think one thing everyone agreed on with this law is it would actually be quite difficult to implement. And obviously you've got a new Labour government, they're saying, we really want to focus on our priorities. And if they want to focus on their priorities in education, which is essentially hiring new teachers in the maths department and helping universities with their financial black holes, which they're currently suffering from, do they want to be engaging a lot of political capital and energy fighting battles over who can and can't speak on campus? Because lots of people's suspicion about the Conservatives on this was it wasn't really sort of a policy priority, but it was a political priority because they wanted to have an argument about cancel culture, and Labour don't want to have that argument. So while I think there is a decent motivation for this policy, I'm not sure it was motivated by that decent motivation, and I can see why Labour can't be bothered with this, frankly.
OK, shall we talk about something really interesting now? Crisp and sexy.
My answer didn't make that tantalising.
Well, we're really interesting, Michael, very interesting. But fish and chips, let's be honest, on Saturday lunchtime are more interesting, aren't they? So the question is, gentlemen, would you pay £15 for fish and chips? This is the most expensive seaside chippies have been revealed, and some of them are charging £15. In posh restaurants, blimey, you can pay £52. Michael, I'm going to come to you first because I'm probably a bit mean now. Would you pay that?
I did my research on this. I went to Hastings last weekend. I got some fish and chips, which I ate on the beach. Ooh. Although my partner bought them, so I don't know how much it cost.
Oh, you cheapskate. Cheapskate.
Yeah, I like it, cheapskate. Yeah. I think it was cod, but...
Right, OK.
OK.
I'll say something else about it. You give us the background, because you know why it's gone up in price.
Yeah, so, we both live in London, so paying £15 for fish and chips, it's probably... Yeah, is that
I wouldn't buy fish and chips in London. For me, it is more of a sort of, when you go to the seaside, it's a sort of event.
Yeah,
because it is, I think, overpriced for the quality of the meal. Not as a sort of diss to fish and chip shops, just because... You know, the weird thing is as you'll explain, the price of the products have gone up.
Although weirdly, my parents' hometown is like one of the furthest places from the sea in Britain, and yet it has one of the best fish and chip shops I've ever had. Berkhamsted.
Oh right,
right by the station. One of the best fish and chip shops I've ever found. But anyway, the actual reason it's more expensive.
It's a free meal for you tonight, isn't it?
Well, sadly, I don't live there. But next, I hope they're watching. But yeah, the reason it's more expensive is basically there's this perfect storm of cost pressures, essentially, which is that wet weather has made potatoes more expensive because it's ruined the crops. The Russians have stopped us fishing in the Bering Sea, which has massively impacted our ability to get the fish. Yeah, it is the Russians' fault. And then, actually, it's twice the Russians' fault, because they invaded Ukraine, and Ukraine is the source of a huge amount of the oil that we fry fish and chips in. So actually, an awful lot of these independent retailers, and a lot of fish and chip shops are independent family-owned shops, they are hugely exposed to these price increases in a way that places like Wetherspoons or supermarkets aren't. So there we go. That's why they're more expensive.
Is Brexit anything to do with it? I just thought I'd ask because I'm contracted to mention the B word once.
It genuinely doesn't seem to be anything to do with Brexit at all.
You must be able to find something to do with Brexit to do with it. Come on.
Well, when it came to fish and Brexit, my understanding was the problems which did seem to be emerging were more for the producers of fish and fish products because it was harder to export it to France. I'm not sure consumers of fish products were affected. If anything, it becoming harder to export sort of seafood to France should make it cheaper here.
It's like those weird stories about, did you see over the weekend about the Russian consumer spending boom because nothing can leave Russia now? And so they've had massive real terms wage increases and a huge consumer market.
And caviar's really cheap.
That's not what's supposed to happen.
Caviar and vodka very cheap. Yeah. Probably quite nice.
We should go on a trip.
But yeah.
Are we allowed to? Is that legal?
Team outing?
I think they'd arrest us, but I think...
No, but is it illegal on our part? I mean, we've got sanctions on Russia. Are we allowed to go on holiday there?
They would let you go. Okay. I think they'd probably just write you off if you did.
OK. Well, actually, I'm just looking for the cheapest ones here, and I think I have New Brighton, £7.67 in New Brighton for your fish and chips.
There we go.
Not bad, is it? Not your Brighton, because your Brighton's a lot more expensive.
Where's New Brighton?
It's is it up near Liverpool way, sort of like in between Liverpool and Wales type of thing?
I was too embarrassed to ask, but you did it for me.
Yeah, OK. And my geography's rubbish.
I'm just sort of squinting at the map through my monocle, being like, "Where's New Brighton?"
What the hell is it? It's up north. It's in Liverpool, basically. It's up north somewhere.
Fine.
I mean, it's a bit further north than Berkhamsted.
Fine. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, that's fine. It's in.